You sprinted into that showroom last Sunday. I know you did. The salesperson steered you toward the glossy black cabinet under the spotlight, handed you a brochure with a European skyline on the cover, and said something like this one has a 200-year legacy of craftsmanship. And you sat down. You played a C major chord. It sounded fine, and for $6,800, you thought maybe you were just too inexperienced to hear the difference. You weren't inexperienced. You were being sold a myth. I've regulated actions inside instruments that cost more than most people's cars. I've also found $800 digitals that outperform $3,500 heritage uprights on every measurable spec. What separates those two instruments isn't quality. It's marketing budget and showroom rent. Today I'm going to name names. 3 brands. Brands you've seen advertised in classical music magazines. Brand with founder portraits on the wall. They're actively charging you for the logo and cutting corners on the parts that actually matter. And I'm going to tell you exactly what to buy instead. Let's talk about why this matters to you specifically. Maybe you're practicing late at night in an apartment and you need a digital with action that won't destroy your technique. Maybe you're a working musician who needs a stage piano that doesn't lie to your fingers mid-performance. Maybe you're buying an acoustic for a serious student, your kid, yourself, and you've got $3,000 to $5,000 and you want it to count. Here's what the industry doesn't want you to understand. The piano market runs on aspiration, not acoustics. The same factories in China and Indonesia that build instruments for prestigious-looking European badge brands also build instruments for companies that are completely honest about where they're manufactured and charge you 40% less because they're not paying for a PR firm in Hamburg. I've seen the inside of both. Same spruce soundboards, same felt hammerweights, same ABS plastic action parts in the lower price tiers. But one has a crest stamped on the fallboard and costs $2,000 more. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull back the curtain on 3 specific offenders. Then I'm going to tell you exactly where that money should go. Let me start with a category rather than a single name, because there are dozens of these. Walk into a mid-range showroom, and you'll see names like Steinberg & Sons, Brodmann, or Vogel. They sound German. They have Gothic typefaces on the fallboard. Some of them have backstories involving a 19th century workshop. Most of them were invented by a marketing team in the early 2000s. These are called stencil pianos. The brand exists only on paper. The instrument is manufactured entirely by a Chinese or Korean factory, sometimes a decent one, sometimes not, slapped with a European-sounding name and sold at a price point that implies old-world craftsmanship. Now here's what I actually found when I opened one up. The Brodmann B, $190,000. Listed at $12,000 to $15,000 at many dealers, uses action components that are functionally identical to instruments you can buy under the Rittmuller or Pearl River Premium brand for $7,500. Same renter style, but not actual renter parts. The repetition spring tension was inconsistent across the keyboard. I measured a 15-gram variance in escapement weight between the treble and tenor break. On a $12,000 instrument, that is unacceptable. What to buy instead? The Pearl River GP 148 or the Rittmuller R8 at $7,000 to $9,000. Pearl River is the largest piano manufacturer on the planet. They make instruments for several of these ghost brands. Buy it with their name on it and save $4,000. The soundboard voicing on the R8 is more consistent than anything I've touched with a ghost brand badge. Before you come after me in the comments, Roland makes excellent products. The RD-88 is a working musician's instrument. The V-piano technology is genuinely sophisticated. But the Roland FP-30X at $700 and the F-107 console, you're paying for the Roland name on the worst implementation of their technology. Here's the spec problem. The FP-30X uses a 2-sensor key detection system. 2 sensors per key. That means the instrument is measuring your keystroke at 2 points, initial strike and full depression. That's it. Compare that to Kawaii's ES920 at the same $700 price point, which uses a triple sensor system measuring initial velocity, midway actuation, and full depression. 3 data points per key versus 2. That third sensor is what captures the half-pedaling nuance and the subtle pianissimo to mezzo piano dynamic transition that makes a piano feel alive. You sit down at the FP30X and play a Chopin nocturne with those soft, floating repeated notes in the right hand. The instrument drops dynamic resolution in the pianissimo range. Not catastrophically, but it flattens the expression. A two-sensor system has a measurable ceiling, and the speaker system in the F107 console. Roland charges you for the cabinet and cuts the amplifier wattage. It's a 2x10 watt stereo system in a piano-sized furniture piece. Kawai CN29 at a similar price point runs 2x15 watts with a dedicated bass resonance driver. What to buy instead? The Kawai ES920 for portable or the CN29 for console. Triple sensor action, 256 note polyphony, and the Kawai SKX sampling was recorded at a higher layer count. 100 dynamic layers on the grand piano voice versus Roland's 64 on equivalent models. You hear it in the middle register. Middle C on the ES920 sustains into a natural decay. On the FP30X, you can hear the sample loop beginning at around 8 seconds. On the Kawai, you're getting 14 to 16 seconds of clean sustain before any artifact. This one hurts because Youngchong built genuinely good instruments in the 1980s and early 1990s. Korean manufacturing at that time was exceptional value. Technicians from Steinway actually consulted on early Youngchong designs. But the post-2000 era, and especially the current production under the new ownership structure, is a different instrument wearing the same name. The action geometry changed. The pivot length on the whippin, that's the lever mechanism between the key and the hammer, was shortened in a cost reduction redesign. A shorter pivot length means faster action, theoretically, but it also reduces the mechanical advantage, which means you need more finger force to produce the same dynamic range. Students developing technique on these instruments are literally building tension into their playing because the instrument is fighting them at the key level. I've re-regulated Youngchong verticals from the current production line and found hammer voicing that's inconsistent straight from the factory. Hammers that are too hard in the tenor register, producing a bright, brittle attack on notes between F3 and C5. That's the heart of the piano. That's where 60% of what you play lives. What to buy instead? A 1980s Yamaha U1 or U3. I will say this until I lose my voice. A well-maintained U1 from the 1985 to 1995 production window, purchased for $3,500 to $5,500 from a reputable rebuilder or certified technician, has a spruce soundboard that has aged into resonance. The wood has dried and stiffened over 35 years. The bass frequencies on a properly maintained U1 have a warmth and complexity that new production vertical pianos at twice the price cannot replicate because the materials haven't had time to season. The Yamaha action geometry from that era is the benchmark against which technicians still measure other instruments. Here's what I left out, and this is the part that catches people even after they buy the right instrument. For digital buyers, every Kawai, Roland, and Yamaha digital piano ships with the piano voice set to concert or brilliant voicing by default. It's louder. It cuts through background noise in a showroom. It makes you think the instrument sounds richer on the sales floor. Go into the function menu. On the Kawai ES920, it's under sound settings, voicing, and switch to mellow or studio voicing. The default voice adds artificial harmonic enhancement, a digital brightening at roughly 5 kHz that makes the attack sound crisp but makes sustained chords sound glassy and synthetic. Switch it off. Now you're hearing the actual sample. It's warmer. It's closer to a real instrument in a room. Most people never find this setting. They take the piano home, live with a voice that's been tuned for a noisy showroom, and wonder why it doesn't sound like what they remember from their lesson. For acoustic buyers, if you're buying that use U1, pay $150 for a registered piano technician, an RPT through the Piano Technicians Guild, to inspect it before money changes hands. $150. That inspection will catch a cracked pin block, which is a $2,000 repair. It will catch loose bridge pins, which affect tuning stability. It will catch worn hammer felt, which costs $400 to $600 to replace. You're not qualified to catch these things by playing it in someone's living room. Neither is the seller's cousin who used to play. Don't skip the inspection. It's the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy. Here's what I need you to do this weekend. Go to the store. Walk past the spotlight display. Walk past the one with the European crest and the brochure with the skyline photo. Sit down at the kawaii. Sit down at the floor model you won in the back corner that nobody's polishing. Close your eyes. Play the bottom octave, F1 up to B1, slow and loud. Then play it soft. That's where an instrument tells the truth, in the bass, in the pianissimo, where there's nowhere to hide. You'll hear the difference between engineering and theater. The logo is theater. The soundboard, the sensor count, the action geometry, that's engineering. You're paying for one of those things. Make sure it's the right one. I'll put the specific models, production year ranges, and price targets in the description below. No affiliate links. Just the list. Go play something.